Welcome in the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down the biggest stories in the sports world, not just the NBA today. We're not just giving you picks. We're giving you stories and analysis on some of the funnest and most interesting topics in the sports world. And you can't teach that. Bada boom, man, the people in the room. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Tanner. Thank you. I planned a fun trip. Me and my girlfriend are going up to Philadelphia soon. I know it's not anywhere too exotic. Like we're not going to, we're not going to the Swiss mountains or anything, but going to go up to Philly in a couple of weeks. Probably catch a Phillies game. That'll be exciting. And it's always good to just get out and get about. You were obviously at the Indy 500 last weekend. How was that, by the way?
It was a lot of fun. The Indy 500 was great. The banquet was awesome. It was a great experience. It was America. It's they, you know what they say, Americana at its finest. You guys just pounding the beers back, having fun. It was a great time. Great time. I'm excited for your trip to Philly, Grant. Even if Philly's a shit city, I'll say that. But I'm excited for you to go to Philly.
I've only been to Philly one time, and it was I don't remember why we went, but it was on a school trip in middle school, I think. I think we went up to see the Liberty Bell, all the constitutional type stuff. But this is gonna be my first time actually going unsupervised by teachers, and just going around and walking around. I've got a friend that lives up there. He's actually a special agent in the FBI, so he knows all the good parts to go to. He knows his way around the city really well. So he's going to lead us around. And then, like I said, we're going to catch a game on Sunday, probably head back on Sunday night.
The stadium is sick. That's the one good thing I'll give to Philly is they have a very cool baseball stadium. That's probably one of my favorite parks to go to because in the outfield, they have just a bunch of food and stuff and like all the, the hometown, the cheesesteaks. I think they have they might have a Shake Shack out there. I'm not sure, but they have a bunch of stuff in the outfield. So really cool stadium. But overall, I hate the city of Philadelphia.
You know my favorite ballpark I've been to?
What?
I feel like this probably shouldn't come as a surprise, but going to a game, in Pittsburgh to see the Pittsburgh Pirates, it was just unbelievable. I mean, every part of it, from walking over the bridge and you see everything right in front of you, and then you actually get in the stadium. And we got a night game too with clear skies. It was just so gorgeous.
That's one where I've never been to PNC because why would I go to Pittsburgh if I don't have to go to Pittsburgh? Sorry. But like if you had to rank, let's transition in here to if you had to rank like the worst cities, what would you rank them as?
You mean like the worst MLB cities, you mean?
I don't know, just the worst cities and just the ones that don't give you a good vibe. New York's ahead of Philly for sure. I hate New York.
I know you hate New York. I feel like going to a Yankees game though has got to be better than going to a Mets game. Because if you're in New York, you might as well go see the Yankees.
I agree. The Met Stadium's nicer though.
City Field, yeah.
City Field's nicer and it's easier to get to. I would put New York's number one. And I went like this is not just like an opinion on sports. Like this is just I went to New York recently. It's not nice. It is not nice at all. It's terrible. So New York's number one. Philly. I was a little hard on Philly. There's just not Philly's like one strip of stuff. I think that's where I was. It wasn't super nice, but it wasn't bad. That's all I'll say. So like, I think New York. I probably would put LA. I think LA is terrible too. I think they're all bad.
I haven't been to a ton of ballparks. I think I've only been to about 8 or so.
That's a lot.
Huh?
That's a lot.
Well, it's still less than a third of the league, but I guess it's more than just, your hometown team. But my favorite, like I said, PNC, definitely my favorite. I'll tell you what, this might be a hot take. I don't know how people are going to react to this. I've been to Wrigley. I didn't love it. I understand the history of it and everything, but you've just got the poles right in front of you and it's blocking your vision. And I think they've updated that a little bit. But the seats weren't as comfortable. Again, it's ballpark seats, so they're not always going to be the best, but they weren't great. I'll tell you what game sucked. Okay, just flat out sucked. I was in Miami at one point, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go check out the Marlins because like just something to do. Nobody there. There was just nobody at those games. And Miami's a very bad sports city, which is weird because of how poppin' it is down there. But like the Miami Heat fans don't show up until the second half. You can't get people to go to Miami football or basketball games at the college level because the stadium's like 45 minutes away from campus. Just nothing with sports sits right down in Miami.
Yeah, and you got to watch your back walking into the Marlins Stadium. From what I hear, I've never been, but from what I hear, you better watch it.
So
Watch out.
when I was down there, I've driven through Miami, but I've only actually stayed there one time. Our Airbnb was like 2 blocks away from the stadium, and I was blown away because it's like right there in a neighborhood.
Yeah, I've never been, but I've seen it, and apparently you got to watch your back. Cincinnati, really cool stadium. I'll give the Reds some credit. I just went there, so there's some cool ones, but I would say the Baltimore's an underrated gem, and also with like ballparks. I don't know if we're talking like cities or ballparks here. I think we're kind of like I'm mixing the conversation, but like New York definitely sucks the most. But if I look at Fenway Park, I don't really like Fenway that much. I'm a Red Sox fan. I think the history of Fenway is cool, but overall, the seats are small. It's just the food's not great. You're there to watch baseball. Like I would rather have an updated ballpark that I go to because I'm not there for the history. I've seen the history enough. I'd rather watch from Citi Field or the Philly Stadium, whatever it's called, the T Bank, the bank. No, that's the football stadium.
No, the football in Philly's Lincoln Financial.
Lincoln Financial, the bank, TD.
And then is it the Wells Fargo Center, Wells Fargo Arena?
That's the arena. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I agree with you though. I think Camden Yards is one of the most underrated ballparks in the league. I mean, I'm close by, so I've been there a decent amount of times, but it's awesome every time you go.
definitely. Well, Grant, we got a lot to talk about today. We're talking about some influencers getting knocked up. We're talking about some basketball. We're talking about a little of everything today. So we're going to break this down on the show. Before we do that, guys, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Ride the Line, smash it. We go live. We don't go live, but we post videos Monday and Thursday. So make sure you get in on that. We also have shorts coming throughout the week. So subscribe. You're not going to regret it. Grant, let's get into our first topic here.
Yeah, I mean, this one, you were so passionate about this one. I feel like it would be a disservice not to let you do the intro.
So there's a nice lady named Hayden Hopkins on the internet. She's got about 200,000 followers. She's in like Gia Duddy range. If you know Gia Duddy, she was just in the news lately. I'm not going to say for what, but she was just in the news. So they're kind of.
It's a similar topic.
It's similar. I guess it is. This one's a little more touches the heartstrings a little bit. She just got her phone hacked. If you guys don't know what happened with Gia Duddy, just search Gia Duddy, Will Levis. It will be the first link to pop up. We're not going to talk about that on this is a kid show.
Well, maybe don't click the link either. Maybe just read the comments, see what they're talking about.
If you want to click the link, we're not going to judge you, but just search it and you're good. Your phone might get hacked though if you click the link, so you got to just be careful there. But this one's a little more sad. This one got to me a little bit. So Hayden Hopkins, she's an influencer. I think a year ago or 2 years ago, she was pictured sitting next to Mark Davis in a suite at a Raiders game. We don't know what they did. We don't know if there was contact. We don't know if he just invited her.
Friends.
They might just be friends. It's a little weird to me that they would be friends, but they might just be friends. But
you don't think their paths of life just happen to cross over? It's 70-year-old Mark Davis and a 23-year-old Instagram picture taker.
Yeah, it doesn't. Picture taker. That's what influencers are called. Grant, why don't you have some more respect for their work?
I mean, that's what they are. They just take pictures.
They take pictures. I agree. They do brand deals and they take them. Good for them. Good for them. But that picture of her next to Mark Davis has caused rumors of a relationship. But we don't know if there was ever a relationship. But the picture that came out of that has caused rumors of a relationship. So now she gets pregnant, and all the tabloids are like, it's Mark Davis's kid, because they had one picture sitting next to each other at a game. So she probably regrets taking that invitation to Vegas for Mark Davis now. But it turns out that Joey Gallo is the father, and it was a planned child. And she came out and put a statement out. This is how wild this world is too, that we're having influencers put statements out about babies. Like, it's just crazy. Like, just go have a kid, honestly. But she's like, this is supposed to be the greatest day of my life. And everyone is saying that Mark Davis is the father when this was a planned child with Joey Gallo. We're talking about it, so I guess we in turn care about it in some way. But I just think it's wild how we care about influencers with 200,000 followers. Then when it's not Mark Davis's kid.
I agree. I also saw a tweet that said it was the first time she had posted in a couple of years. I mean, not on Instagram, obviously. I don't know if that's true or not, but to your point, if that is true, for her to feel the need to release a statement like that, which again, no disrespect to her, but she's popular on Instagram and she was pictured next to Mark Davis one time, and all of a sudden she needs to release a statement, saying this is not the father of my child. It's just a little weird. It is just a little weird. Who of all people would have thought it would be Joey Gallo, by the way? I mean, he maybe he's just using up all of his hits elsewhere because he can't get it done on the field. So I wouldn't have picked him to be the one who would hit it out the park.
Joey Gallo, tough fall off in his career. If you look, he's never really been a good hitter. I will say that. Like he's had some power. I mean, 41 home runs, 40 home runs. He's kind of like a Kyle Schwarber dude for in his peak, but like 204, 40, 209, 206, 253, 181, 223. He has not hit over 200 the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. So it's tough look for Joey Gallo. Hopefully the kid is a better hitter than Joey Gallo.
I saw somebody doing one of those little just TikTok interviews with Joey Gallo the other day, and they basically asked him, what would you be doing if you weren't playing baseball? Everybody always loves to ask that question to athletes. What were you doing if you weren't doing this? And he said, well, gosh, I don't really know if I have many other skills. I've just been a baseball player my whole life. And then he goes, but honestly, even that's up for a question right now. So he knows he's not hitting the ball.
That's good. That's a good statement to make by Gallo. That's a good statement. I don't know how we've gotten to this point. Like Joey Gallo become the father was pretty wild to me, but hey,
I want to see an episode of the Maury Show with Mark Davis, Hayden Hopkins, and Joey Gallo.
That would be funny. You could do like a little spoof on that. That would be good. It's a good idea, Grant. Maybe we'll make that happen here at Ride the Line. Well, we got more topics to talk about now. The Chiefs offseason has just been, we'll do Chiefs offseason. You want to do Ohtani first or Chiefs offseason?
No, we'll do Chiefs. All
right. So other news coming out of the Chiefs. It just keeps getting worse for the Chiefs, honestly. We go back to Rashee Rice. He likes racing cars. He really likes going fast. And then he likes carrying guns when he's going fast. And then he also did, so what else did he do, Grant? Didn't something else?
He was tied to a shooting or a murder or something with guns back in college.
Yeah, so he's got some off the field issues that were not exposed by the Chiefs in their draft interview. Hell of a receiver, really good receiver. Just some issues there, and he started this whole thing. He's gonna get suspended probably 8 games, 10 games.
I believe the Chiefs said they are preparing to be without him for the first half of the season. So I would put it right around there.
Yeah, so he's gonna get suspended, and then you had like some drug issue. I think it was like weed or something, right?
Yeah, somebody got arrested for DWI or possession or whatever.
Then you have Harrison Butker, which I feel like everything's kind of blown over now. Even Harrison Butker is still getting a little remnants of it, but like that's blown over. And now we have somebody like they're covering the gamut of charges. Now we have 2 animal cruelty warrants filed against Chiefs Isaiah Buggs. And Grant, you know what he did more so. You were reading on this.
Yeah, so I guess he owns several properties, as you do. NFL players have money. They have the right to do that. But I guess at one of these properties, either he had moved out or he was in the process of moving out. And in doing so, he left 2 dogs on a screened-in back porch, no access to food or water. The dogs were reportedly, I think a neighbor called and saw them out there or something like that. Police showed up, or I don't know who deals with these types of calls, but whoever it was, they got there. They noticed the dogs were malnourished. One of them was a pit bull. It actually ended up needing to be euthanized. I would guess that would be because of poor health. I'm not entirely sure, but point being, just a nasty. It's unfortunate. Like I always feel bad for dogs or for people who, not dogs, I guess pets or people who are just put in unfair situations where you just don't have a chance. And my problem is, life is going to life in a lot of ways, but it's not fair when people aren't given a chance. And just to leave dogs or like that, it definitely stinks, or it stings a little bit. So, I don't know what's going to happen to Buggs. He's probably not going to go to jail because NFL players seem to not go to jail ever. But yeah, the Chiefs offseason woes just continue.
If you forget your dogs in the back porch, were they even your dogs? Like, were like what? Like, it just gives off a bad. Like, nobody in their right mind would ever forget their pets in the back porch when they're moving out of a house. It just would never happen. So this gives me, I think there's going to be more stories to come out of this. This might lead to like a dog fighting ring. This might lead to something like that because nobody's forgetting a pet that they care for on the back porch. It's just not happening.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have one story, which I don't even really know if I should be sharing on the podcast. But when I was a kid, my family went out of town for the weekend, and we hired a dog sitter, and they were supposed to come over, and they'd been over. We'd left the food out and everything. They knew where the water was. They knew, we had a back door to a deck, and the dogs could go down that and go to the bathroom and everything. The dog sitter never showed up, so
Wow,
they were alone for like 3 days straight.
that's sad.
And they ended up being okay, but I remember how scary that was, and I remember how bad we felt, and we didn't do anything. I mean, you can say we did because we left them, but we did hire the dog sitter. So, I mean, to your point, for you to just, I don't know how you forget that you have dogs, and that means it's probably a conscious decision. I just don't understand how you just leave them there.
Has Andy Reid lost control of his team?
So this is something you said before we started recording, and I think it's a very interesting question because I think losing control means that the off the field issues are getting to the point that they're impacting your team, and obviously that's not the case. The Chiefs just won back-to-back Super Bowls. Most people said last year was the worst Chiefs team they've had since Mahomes took over, and they still won the Super Bowl. So I don't know if he's lost control of the team to that extent. But like, if you want to look at, because Andy Reid has elevated himself to the greatest coach of all time conversation. Not that he's leading it, but he is in the top 10 of that conversation probably. And if you want to look at some of those other guys, who's the most recent one? Bill Belichick. You got stuff like this going on off the field. Either A, it doesn't get out. B, it's immediately dealt with and the players are released. Or C, it just doesn't happen. So from that perspective, I do think where there's a smoke, there's a fire. I do think it is kind of worth looking into, okay, why can't the Chiefs seem to control what is going on off the field?
Yeah, and Patrick Mahomes, now he's going to be fine, but he definitely put on a few pounds in the offseason. Him walking in, the dad bod comments were rolling in there, but he's still and they're going to win the Super Bowl again because that's just what they do. The gambling situation, Ipe's bookie. Ipe is Ohtani's translator, who is no longer his translator because he was gambling too much of his money. David Fletcher is now a part of Ohtani's book. Grant, you break this story down. You know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so back at the start of the season, you remember the MLB they had the horrendous idea to start the year in South Korea. They're struggling for viewership, so they're going to start the season in South Korea at 3 a.m. in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Just great idea. Great thinking, Rob Manfred. But whatever, they start the season in South Korea. Ohtani and the Dodgers are over there. They're playing the Padres. Ohtani's translator, the guy who's always been with him since he was on the Angels and now at the Dodgers, Ipe Mizuhara, basically goes to Ohtani and says, hey, this is what it is. I've been stealing millions of dollars from your account, and I've been gambling with it. Launches this whole investigation, blah, blah, blah. Mizuhara, it ends up coming out that he stole, I think, over $16 million from Ohtani. He changed the account settings on his bank account so that when there was a transfer and you would get alerts, they would be directed to him, not Ohtani. He impersonated Ohtani on the phone to bank personnel, all this stuff. And so that comes and goes, but it comes out that the bookie that Mizuhara was using, who lives in California, an illegal bookie, also was, had a client who was a former teammate of Ohtani's, and his name was David Fletcher. He was with the Angels, just like Ohtani was from 2018 to 2023. He was picked up by the Atlanta Braves. I believe he's in their minor league system right now. But basically, it's the same sort of deal. David Fletcher is under investigation for illegal gambling with this illegal bookmaker. Gambling is illegal in California, obviously where the Angels play. It is illegal if you are in the MLB to bet on other MLB games. And it's just another guy who was very closely linked to Ohtani. Mizuhara was his translator, and this guy, David Fletcher, was reportedly one of his very close friends. So, there were a bunch of memes when the thing with the translator first came out that Ohtani was making him the fall guy. And then it ended up being proven, through the investigation that wasn't the case. But even if David Fletcher, if he's not the fall guy for Ohtani, for him to have two guys so close to him be involved in this investigation, it looks a little shady at the very least.
Unless Ipe was the one going around asking the players if they want to get in on the action that night.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember some of the details. I know there were conversations about how I think David Fletcher had met the bookie at an event or something. And I think I think either he or the bookie or something had been let into private card games with Angels players. I don't know exactly, but it's just a big web. And for it to be so close to Ohtani, even if he wasn't betting on the games, it does just seem like things are a little too close to him.
Use promo code Otani. That's what they should have been doing. I don't understand why these guys just don't go bet on Bovada. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, go if you're in California, use Bovada, use MyBookie, use one of these offshore sites if you're there, or get somebody, use Prize Picks, use a fantasy site, and just don't gamble on your own sport. It's not hard. You guys are making way more money to play baseball than you'll ever make gambling on baseball. So I don't understand that. But also, too, I think in this situation here, it was more of Ipe going around, try to get people in on the action kind of thing. But this is also the system working correctly too. Like, shout out to the system, because we're fine. Players are going to gamble. Everyone loves to gamble. Like, gambling is part of the human nature. We love to gamble. So players are going to do it, but the system is finding the players who are doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes back to Jonte Porter. It goes back to Calvin Ridley even. It is working. It's not going to be instant a lot of the time, but it is working. And I think that is comforting, as we bet on sports. We don't want to see games being rigged or anything like that. And so the fact you are seeing all of these investigations leading to real results, I do think that is very comforting.
Jonte Porter just signed a deal with the Shanghai Sharks. Did you see that?
Did he really?
No, I'm kidding. Anyways.
Yeah, I was ready to buy in. I thought he did.
You can probably gamble on yourself out there and play in the games and no problems at all.
You probably place the bets like live. You probably live bet on yourself.
He's on the bench placing bets on like a Chinese sports book, and then he goes in and actually plays. Pretty cool. Okay, so we got a few minutes here. We're going to talk about Game 5 in a little bit. We're going to talk about Bronny James. How Grant, you had some thoughts on Bronny. My quick thoughts here: the fact that I think it's a disservice that he's coming out. He's not ready to come out. If Alex Caravan is going back to college, I personally think Bronny James should be going back to college. That's just my take.
Yeah, so I mean, we know that production at the college level doesn't always translate to production at the top level. Like Luka Garza won College Player of the Year at Iowa, had a sensational season, and he can barely get out of the G League. You see him on the bench at these Timberwolves games, but he doesn't play unless it's garbage time. And then, the inverse, like this guy in college doesn't do great, but then all of a sudden he's a great pro player. And it's just this whole back and forth. But with Bronny, obviously, whether he likes it or not, and he didn't ask for any of this. He didn't ask to be LeBron's son. He didn't ask to be named LeBron James Jr., but it is just kind of what's fallen on him. He's obviously going to get more interest than he should for that reason. What I find very interesting is he has refused workouts. I think he was contacted for 10 workouts. He refused all but 2 of them, and those 2 were the Lakers and the Suns. Now, what I don't get is he said he's not going to the NBA to play with his dad. He's not going to the NBA to be his dad's son. Like, he's going to the NBA because that is his life dream. If you have 10 workouts, I don't understand why you don't take all 10 of them. You're not going to get drafted by all of them, sure, but whether one of them takes you at a higher spot or maybe one of them's in a better championship contending position. Like, I don't see why you would not take one of those or all of those opportunities. And then for him to only work out for the Lakers or Suns, I think is very indicative maybe of what LeBron is thinking about, because LeBron, I think, wants to retire with the Lakers. And, obviously Bronny would love to be there, not only just because his dad's there, but it's California. It's a great place to be. You make a lot of money. It's the biggest brand in basketball. And then the other team is the Phoenix Suns. We've talked ad nauseum about Matt Ishbia's ambitions, first trading for Kevin Durant and then getting Bradley Beal, all these stars. There were reports like a week ago that he wants to try to find a way to trade for LeBron. I don't know how the hell he would do that, but for Bronny, again, to refuse a workout with every team except for the Lakers and the Suns, it's just weird. I don't get how they keep trying to say they want to be separate from one another, but everything they're doing seems to be so aligned.
It's all Rich Paul. It's all Rich Paul and LeBron. That's the sad thing about this. Like, personally, I believe. I don't think Bronny, maybe he wants to come out. He probably wants to play in the NBA over playing in college. But it's the fact that these decisions are clearly not being made by him. They're seem to be solely made by his agent and LeBron, and the dream of playing with his father, where you would think if the kid's coming out, he's like the 50, is he in like 50th prospect? He's in that range,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you would think you'd work out for every team if you're trying to get to a contract. You're trying to play for whoever you want, whoever is going to take you, and you want to get in front of as many eyes as possible. So this is like a Rich Paul decision, and like Rich Paul coming out and saying he's not going to sign a two-way contract. That's great, as you were saying before the show. That's good for an agent to say. But if you need to come out and declare that he's not signing a two-way contract, he's probably not ready to play in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Or at least he's not ready to be at this sort of position that he's being treated as, or that a lot of people want to be. He is the most bet player. I'm sure you've seen this. He is the most bet player to go number one in the draft. Like it doesn't line up. And I understand, because it is the influence of LeBron, and teams picking at the top draft are normally pretty stupid. Maybe they're thinking if we take Bronny first overall, we get LeBron, blah, 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 blah. We know that's not going to happen. And can Bronny be a decent rotational NBA player one day? I think he has a chance. I mean, you look at some of the players he named as he wants to model his game after. He named Derek White and Davion Mitchell. Now, Derek White is sensational, but Derek White is truly like one of the best role players that I can remember as far as I've been watching basketball. And then Davion Mitchell is a guy who's like your 9th, 10th man in the rotation, might not play in playoff games, gets like 15 minutes a game in the regular season. So for him to name those as his inspirations, I guess, he is self-aware to a certain extent, but I just don't see how this move to come to the NBA now makes sense. I do think another year of college would have been best.
Yeah, another year, even 2 years. What are we rushing? I know we want to get him to play with his dad, but like, if I'm LeBron, and I guess and I'm not LeBron, but if I was sitting in LeBron's shoes, I hope if I was a father, I hope I would say, I want what's best for my kid. And if I want to play with him, I might want to play with him, but I want what's best. If my kid's going to have a better NBA career, staying 4 years in college, I would want that.
I also think LeBron maybe has backed out on his goal of wanting to play with Bronny, because he's probably still a lot better than he thought he would be at this age. Like, yeah. LeBron is still a top 7, top 8 NBA player. I don't think he expected to be that at 41 years old.
So we'll see what happens. Should be interesting to follow there. And now we can talk about the Western Conference Finals. Game 5 coming up tonight on Thursday. Do the Minnesota Timberwolves have a legitimate chance to come back from a 3-0 deficit, Grant, and why?
No, because it has never happened in the history of basketball. Teams are, I believe, 0-156 when trailing 0-3 in a best-of-7 series. It will happen one day, but until it happens, I can't say a team has a reasonable chance. By the way, as an aside, for the sportsbooks to offer plus 1,100 odds for them to come back when they were down 0-3, for plus 11,000, we're still not where the odds need to be. If you took plus 1,100, God love you. I don't know what to say. I don't know why you would do that. I know some people are going to get excited because the Timberwolves won Game 4. And you know what, Tanner? I'm picking them to win Game 5. I'm picking them to win Game 5. They're better on their home court. Dallas is worse on the road. Karl-Anthony Towns finally stopped being a double agent, had himself a good game, even though he fouled out. You see the Timberwolves were able to win. With any stroke of luck, you're going to get one of Luka or Kyrie to have an off night tonight. Minnesota has the defense to do it. Anthony Edwards had his best game of the series in Game 4. Teams got momentum. They're back on their home floor. I do think they win Game 5, but can they come back from 0-3? I just don't see it happening. Especially, this is the biggest thing, and then I'll let you go, with how good Dallas has been in the clutch. They're the best clutch team in the league. If you look at the two closers, Luka and Kyrie, they had the best record during the regular season in clutch situations. In this series alone, they are outscoring the Timberwolves by more than 18 points per 100 possessions in clutch moments. I think Dallas is still good to win the series, even if they lose Game 5.
Well, Dallas went to that last game when Kyrie was like, this is their Super Bowl. This is just another game for us. I didn't like that. You got to show up and finish the job first before we start talking back. But I do agree with you. It's never been done before. I don't think it's going to be done here. And what was wild, too, when I was doing my research, I believe it's only 3, but only 3 teams have forced a Game 7 who have been down 3-0. 3 or 4. 3. It's between 3 and 5. It's very low.
I'm trying to, I believe Doc Rivers, either Clippers or Celtics, I forget which one. They did it one time. The Celtics did it last year with the Miami Heat. They were down 3-0 or 0-3 in the conference finals. They forced the Game 7. I don't know what the other team would be, though. I can try to look it up.
Only 4 teams of the 156 have forced a Game 7. I just looked it up. That's wild. So
which teams were they?
It was definitely the Celtics last year. Celtics being the most recent. It does not have the list on here.
Okay. Well, let's see. List of teams. National. Okay. Okay. So we had the Rochester Royals against the New York Knicks,
which shouldn't even count, honestly, because
we had the '94 Western Conference Finals, the Nuggets and the Jazz. Oh, okay. We had the 2003 Western Conference first round. We had the Blazers and the Mavericks, and then we had last year the Celtics Heat.
So that's crazy to think that only 4 teams that have gone down 3-0 have even forced a Game 7 and put themselves in a situation to win. So just off that alone, I would say it's not going to happen. 11-1 odds yesterday were not worth it. Or going into Game 4 were not worth it. It's only 4-1 right now for them to win 3 games in a row. That's not worth it. So it's pretty wild to think. Now Minnesota's got. I think the other reason too, like we're in a world of social media where you have Anthony Edwards coming out and saying, we got nothing to lose. We're playing with nothing to lose. Like what else is he? That's what he's going to say in general. But I think people can get behind that because of how dominant he's actually been in some of these playoff games. Other games, he's totally dropped the ball. But when you see a guy drop 40 points multiple times in the playoffs and then say, hey, we got nothing to lose and come out and win a basketball game, you're obviously going to see the odds. The sports books can't have that much liability.
I did see that. I think it was teams trailing 3-1. They showed a list of the biggest favorites in Game 5 with the team down 1-3. I think the Timberwolves were the second largest favorite ever. And it's only 4.5 points, but still, they were down 0-3 in the series at one point. So for them to be 4.5 points, in Game 5 shows the odds makers do still believe in them.
Would you take plus 5.5 tonight or minus 5.5 or plus 4? It's 4.5.
At 5.5, I might go with Dallas. Because this series has been so close. The Mavericks, they win by 9, they win by 1, they win by 3, and then the Timberwolves win by 5. So at 5.5, 3 of the 4 games have been right there.
Yeah, I mean, even the last game, Luka made that shot. He misses the free throw there. Like there were multiple opportunities to keep that within a small spread, and it was within a small spread. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game. I'd probably lean towards the Mavericks at 4.5 because just if you take 4.5, it's either going to be a tight game or they're going to find a way to win outright based on what we've seen. So if you lose, it's going to be by a few points. So I think the safer way is taking the points based on what we see in the series.
Before we get on out of here, my parlay, Tanner, the one that had the Celtics sweeping, we got that done, and then the other leg was the Mavericks to win the series in 7. I need your thoughts on this. So they offered me $30 to cash out before the last game. I didn't take it because I had a strong feeling Minnesota was going to win. I actually put a large amount on the Timberwolves money line, and obviously that hit. But ahead of Game 5, they're offering me. I bet $50. I can win up to $1,800. They're offering me $130 to cash out before Game 5. I think personally we got to let that one ride because I think the Timberwolves are still alive, especially with this game being in Minnesota. I think we got to let it ride for that one. And then I might cash out ahead of Game 6 because I don't know how I would feel about Dallas losing 3 in a row.
Well, my take is you got to let it ride. And then if you get to Game 6, if you get to Game 6, then you're 1 win away, and then you could like hedge it. If you just think about it, Minnesota has to win 2 more games for you to put yourself in a position where in a Game 7 it's going to be in Dallas, right? Can't think. Right?
In Minnesota.
Oh, it's going to be in Minnesota. So they're going to be a favorite in that game. So I mean, you could still put if you had 1,800, you could still put $1,000 on one team, and then you're going to get like 800 either way. You know what I'm saying? So I would let it ride.
Okay. The decision has been made. We're letting it ride.
We'll see how the game goes tonight. I mean, obviously, if Minnesota dominates tonight and they're feeling really confident, might as well let it go.
Yeah. I mean, I got confident in the boys. Just not enough confidence for them to win the series, but I got them tonight.
And the series price currently is, let's make sure it's still 4-1. It is currently at 4.2 to 1.
Okay. Yep.
So, Anyways, that was Ride the Line. Another riding episode for May 30th. It's almost June. Get excited, people. We got NBA Finals coming up. We'll be breaking that down. Some more fun stories like we did with Hayden Hopkins today and Gia Duddy and all these influencers too. We're doing it all. We're covering the basis, covering all the bases on Ride the Line.
Yep, we absolutely are. And guys, before we get on out of here, make sure that you have liked the video. If you did enjoy, drop some comments. Let us know. Let me know what you would do with my parlay if you were in my position. Let us know who wins Game 5. And Tanner, take us on out of here.
That was Ride the Line, the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. We'll see you next time for another episode.